So continuing, aborted babies in this whole line of news, aborted babies incinerated to heat UK hospitals, London Telegraph. We have an article on Infowars.com giving some more of the backstory on it. Drudge has the big story linked as his top story, aborted babies incinerated to heat hospitals. And it continues, the remains of more than 15,000 babies. Well, that's politically incorrect, just like the word bossy needs to be banned. That might hurt a child sacrificer's ego, so let's call it the remains of more than 15,000 parasites, because that's what feminists teach, is a baby's a parasite. The remains of more than 15,000 scumbag, terrorist, racist, parasite pieces of filth, because we're already killing them and then incinerating them to heat the hospital, Soylent Greens made out of people, and we're already using humans for fertilizer all over the world. That's being pushed as trendy. And by law, making you be turned into fertilizer, not buried for the earth. So why not just let's read this like an anti-human eugenicist would, posing as a trendy. Aborted blobs of lifeless, non-human flesh incinerated to heat glorious UK eugenics facilities. The remains of more than 15,000 terrorist, racist, scumbag parasites were incinerated as clinical waste by hospitals in Britain, with some used in waste-to-energy plants. New glorious system moves forward as humanity is prepared to be reduced to save the earth. All hail the robotic revolution and the merger of the transhumanist state. There, I just translated that headline for you. Now, let's read it from the perspective of a human that understands that if the babies have no rights, we have no rights, and it's part of a giant dehumanization, ultra-Hitlerian, proto-eugenics takeover. Now, let's get into it. Aborted babies incinerated to heat UK hospitals, London Telegraph, the remains of more than 1,500 dear little wonderful souls that had incredible futures ahead of them. 15,000, excuse me, I'm having Freudian slips here and trying to reduce the number in my mind. I said 1,500, right? Let me actually just read the headline here. Aborted babies incinerated to heat UK hospitals in act of total dehumanization to lower the value of human life to below zero, ahead of the giant forced mass culling the globalists are planning with the super germs they're releasing and cultivating. There, another insightful, true headline. No, this time I'm actually just going to read the article and then analyze it after. Aborted babies incinerated to heat UK hospitals. The remains of more than 15,000 babies were incinerated as, quote, clinical waste by hospitals in Britain, with some used in waste-to-energy plants. Continuing, the bodies of thousands of aborted and miscarried babies were incinerated as clinical waste, with some even used to heat hospitals, an investigation has found. 10 NHS trusts have admitted, that's Downing Street Trust, burning fetal remains alongside with rubbish, while 2 others used the bodies in waste-to-energy plants, which generated power for heat. Last night, the Department of Health issued an infant ban on the practice which Health Minister Dr. Dan Poulter branded totally unacceptable. Why? Because they're not being sold to French cosmetic makers like the Chinese dead babies are, so they can be festooned onto women's beaks. Last night, the Department of Health issued an infant ban, an instant ban on the practice which Health Minister Dan Poulter branded totally unacceptable. At least 15,500 fetal remains were incinerated by the 27 NHS trusts over the last 2 years alone, Channel 4's dispatches discovered. The program, which will air tonight, found that parents who lose children early pregnancy were often treated. Let me pull the staple out of this so I can read it. Without compassion, and were not consulted about what they wanted to happen to the remains. Well, they take your blood worldwide without asking you and patent it and steal your genetics. I mean, they shoot you up with cancer viruses and all the major vaccines. Again, I'm not knocking nurses and nurse practitioners and doctors. Most of them are very hardworking professionals that have hellish jobs that are incredibly hard and have to be around disease all day and sadness all day. It's heroic what many medical workers do. But who runs it, Rockefeller medicine from above, is prime evil. Absolute, the core of wickedness. And it just goes on. So this is the dehumanization. And they burn up 4,000 stillbirths of the 15,000 they know of. And I'm sure it's far worse. And this is just all part of the dehumanization.